Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
And holy suffering doodle cats. Thanks to all of the people that shared. I did a little rant on Friday, those of you who didn't hear, and said, listen, we need shares. It's the only means we have of getting the message out to other people. And I think, what did we get? About 80 shares. It's a record number of shares.
Listen, you get more shares than Howard Stern does. You get more shares than Justin Trudeau does, than Pierre Poilievre does. You need not worry. We've got your back, Mr. Green.
Well, anyway, thank you very much
Yes.
for paying attention. There's no question that sharing really helps us, both John and I, and we both want to thank you.
It does.
Your opinion, please. We've got some pretty thoughtful listeners out there. I'd like your opinion on this. Some organizers of the Freedom Convoy are asking that some of the money donated towards them, should be freed up. More than $1 million was donated to the truckers and their supporters through GoFundMe. But not a single cent of that was ever distributed to the intended recipients. Trudeau, as you know, hated the truckers. Woo! Hated them with a passion, and still does, and did everything he could to confound them, including throwing some of the people in jail, etc., etc. One of the things he did was he somehow, how a prime minister can interfere in the justice system like this, I have no idea. But it scares the hell out of me. But anyway, one of the things he did, he somehow or other managed to freeze every single cent. So there is more than $1 million sitting in escrow in a bank someplace that was donated with the best of intentions by over 3,000 people. About 99% of them Canadian, despite some of the lies that were spread about Russians supporting them and Americans and so forth. Over 3,000 donators, 99% of them from Canada. Most of the donations were $10, $20. Ordinary people donating over $1 million intended to help the truckers. So that money is frozen. So what's happening now is that Trudeau is continuing with his, not prosecution, but I call it persecution, and has convinced the mostly liberal appointed judges that these truckers are the great danger, that these people are a danger to the national security, whatever it is, somehow or other. We all know what's happened to the organizers, et cetera, et cetera. But the court case is coming up. There are several court cases against the truckers and their supporters. And this requires a lot of money to defend themselves, the truckers and others. I mean, we're talking ordinary people, ordinary guys driving a truck, 100 hours a week or whatever it is, housewives, etc. They don't have the kind of money it takes. So they say, listen, we got $1 million that was donated to help us. We need help. We've got a court case coming up for several of them. We need some money so that we can properly defend ourselves. So free up, please, $450,000. So my question is, in your opinion, even if you are opposed to what they did, even if you're one of those Ottawa residents who is really pissed off, the money was donated to help them. They need help. It was donated with the best of intentions. Should the money be, at least some of it, be freed up? It seems to me, and I'd like your opinion on this, either free up the money, in fact, I say free up all of the money to go to those that it was intended, or give it back to the people who donated it. I think it's just wrong, morally and otherwise wrong, that $1 million or so of money donated by ordinary people sits in a bank someplace, frozen. You can be sure at the orders of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So my question is, should they free up that money? even if you don't like the truckers, etc. You know, one of the problems that I have is if these people show up in court without proper defense, they're up against, in all probability, some of the country's most expensive, most experienced lawyers, representing the government of Canada in many cases, or maybe the city of Ottawa. I don't know. In other words, if the money isn't freed up or some of it, what we're confronted with here is essentially the rich against the poor. That's the way I see it. I could be wrong. I was wrong. I think in 1977 I was wrong about something. Maybe it was 76. Could be wrong about that. But anyway, all I'm saying is that the specter of ordinary people trying to defend themselves against people with limitless, I mean, the government has got all the money in the world, right? It's your money. They can
Exactly.
do whatever they want. So that my question is, okay, no matter where you stand on support of the convoy or whatever, should they at least get some of the money that was dated towards them? That's my question. If there's anything else that you want to discuss, please feel free to do so. Um, the court cases, by the way, begin. I think about September 19th. Very, somewhere. And now they could be postponed for a while. But I'm telling you, the idea of these innocent, of a Tamara Lynch, who at one point was in shackles, hand and foot shackled, no violence or anything else, denied bail. Excuse me. The idea that she's going to once again be up against a a liberal a liberal lawyer, supported lawyer, and in all probability a liberal appointed judge. Man, oh man, what's happened to justice in this country? Okay, that's it. I think you know where I stand on this. I think, speaking personally, I think the money should be freed up. I think all of it should be freed up. Either free the damn money up or give it back to the people who donated it. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, it sits in escrow, but you can be damn sure that it's invested, that it's gaining interest for somebody. Some rich son of a bitch. Well, you're not a son of a bitch because you're rich, but you know what I mean. Somebody out there is making money off this. You can be sure $1 million. What's your view on that, John? Any response to this point?
Yeah, and mostly people seem to be agreeing with you. My question is, so these funds were donated through GoFundMe.
Yes.
So it would be GoFundMe that has frozen them at the behest of the government.
There's a court order apparently. Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's any interest growing on that in that case with GoFundMe. I'd have to look at what their rules and regulations are, but the money, nonetheless is sitting there taking up space. And, listen, if I donate to a cause, I want it to go to that cause.
Yeah, precisely.
Period.
And the money was donated with the best of intentions.
Right.
There were all kinds of lies. One of the things was, I mean, the media coverage of this was just vicious. And one of the stories that was floating around is that they were being supported by Russian interests and American interest. And, at one point, the story floating around was that these people were going to overtake the government, that they were going to overthrow the government violently and, et cetera, et cetera. And that part of it was, and then, part of it was this money was coming in from all of these nefarious sources. It was all just giant lies.
Well, and even if that was the case, freeze that. Leave the rest of it alone from, like you said, well-intentioned Canadians who wanted to support it, whether you agree with it or not.
Yep.
If that was the intention of a Canadian, someone from Russia, sure, okay, let's investigate that. That's easy to track down, too. All right, Lowell, sorry I interrupted you, but here's some of the comments so far. Terry asks, can they not start another GoFundMe before the trial? Interesting. Interesting.
You know what? I would imagine that this guy Trudeau, I mean, he's got the tentacles everywhere. I've never seen anybody in power, certainly not in a Western democracy, whose tentacles reach into everything. I mean, he's obviously got a whole convoy of liberal appointed judges out there, including in the Supreme Court, and obviously his tentacles reach out into the police forces. We saw this with the police force in Nova Scotia.
Exactly.
Now, in Nova Scotia, I want to point out we had some RCMP officers who were tough enough to stand up to essentially the federal government and essentially tell the federal government to take a hike. But if Trudeau and Bill Blair were trying to interfere in the legal system in Nova Scotia, you don't think they've tried to do this elsewhere? Do you think other people, you can be damn sure that lots of police forces out there wouldn't have the guts or the individuals to stand up to the federal government?
You're right.
So if it happened, if they tried it with Jody Wilson-Raybould. We know that. They tried it in Nova Scotia. You don't think they've tried it elsewhere successfully? I believe that they have. And I believe that that I call it the persecution of the convoy organizers is just one illustration of that. I'm going to tell you, if Trudeau was not involved, his tentacles didn't reach out somehow, I don't think that Tamara Lynch would have had her bail denied, been kept in jail longer than people sometimes who are murderers. She would not have been appeared in, this little woman, and no violence and no criminal record of any kind, in shackles, hands and or ankles and hands in shackles. That's Trudeau. All right, folks, what are people saying here?
Joshua loves the term tentacles, by the way. He says it's the perfect term, slimy as Trudeau is.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Regarding the year you were wrong, Greg corrects you. He says it was 1975. You were
75. I was wrong.
Yeah,
okay.
you were wrong on that. Phone call coming in.
I just want to point something. I wasn't badly wrong. Okay, I was just slightly misspoken. Go ahead.
If it was a hand grenade, you would have been right in the ballpark. Yes, I hear you.
You know why I was wrong back then? Back then, I was a liberal. Now there was a mistake.
That's all right. Phone call coming in. Haven't had a chance to screen it. Let's go to the call. Can I get your name, please?
Good afternoon, John. It's Jace.
Oh, here we go. Jace, bring it on. You're on live with Lowell Green.
Lowell, you beat me to the punch. December 1984, you ran as a liberal. That's when you were wrong.
Misled. I was misled. You know what? I was a liberal when liberals were really liberal.
But I don't know. It's still, as far as that money goes, Lowell, we need to release it. Come on. Use it for what it was intended for. Let it go. People asked for it. People wanted it. And people put up their hard-earned money to support the truckers.
Yep, very
true. Justin Trudeau had no right to jump in there. And these court cases are coming up. And no matter how I feel about the convoy and how long they stayed and the noise they made and everything else, this was what the money was intended for. And good Canadian people put up their hard-earned cash to support it. Let it go.
Holy cats, you and I agree today, Chase. Put a red star beside this day.
Hope you're sitting down.
I am. Thanks for the call. Thank you. What else have we got, John?
Corley.
Just a minute. Hold it. I'm in a state of shock here. Chase and Lowell Green agree on everything here. Oh my God, where's my medicine? Where's my meds? Go ahead.
Jace, I'd like to hear you do your own talk show. Just saying. Corley has
God, spare me that. Okay,
why not? If I can do it, anybody can.
Yeah.
That's to take nothing away from you, sir. With all due respect. Corleen has posted a link to jccf.ca. jccf.ca. That's Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. She says they are the organization that is working with Tamara Leach and the others. You can donate directly to them. jccf.ca. Thank you for that link. Carl says, doesn't the city of Ottawa want to get their hands on all that money, use it for the defense lawyers, or return it to the donators? He says.
I don't know. The whole business of freezing this money, I'm not sure if that's ever been done before. I think that a precedent has been set here. I have used GoFundMe before. Debbie and I helped save the life of a young woman in the Bahamas using GoFundMe money. So we're quite familiar with it. And how the government managed to get GoFundMe to freeze the funds is a real strange thing. The whole thing is just reeks of rotten politics. Go ahead, John.
Over to YouTube, and Dylan says definitely should be unfreezing all the money and either back to the ones who donated it or send it to its intended cause. Perfect example of Trudeau power tripping. Other comments on Facebook. Lynn says he throws law-abiding citizens in jail but goes easy on hardened criminals. Rick is on Facebook as well. He says, this breaks my heart. Aim your wrath where it belongs. Tom says, yes, definitely. Free up this money. And on Facebook, I totally agree that the money donated to the Freedom Convoy should be either freed up or returned to the donors. Anything else is theft, though theft is no stranger to liberals, she says.
Okay, all right.
Like that. Joshua, if it was not distributed to who it was meant, why has it not been returned already? Good question.
Good question. Good question.
Whiner Jimmy Watson had his fingers in the freezing of funds. He claimed that the convoy was violent. Here's a comment on Facebook moments ago.
Yeah, there were a lot. I mean, it's sometimes it's easy to forget, but there were all kinds of stories about violence and I remember one of the things that really goaded me was one stupid woman got up and for about 10 seconds or something on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Stupid thing to do, wrong thing to do. But she was one person. I pointed out that there were probably 20 or 30,000 people supporting the truckers and so forth in town, etc. So out of that group, one for a few seconds made a mistake, got up there, didn't apparently understand, and by the way, was never charged. But this was played up. And the many broadcasts that I heard, news stories talked about, violation of the tomb of the. It was terrible. And there was somebody tried to set fire to one of the apartment buildings. This was all blamed on the truckers, although they had nothing to do with it.
Well, this is the thing, right? Anytime you've got a mass gathering, and we talked about it at the time, anytime you've got a mass gathering of people, it becomes, a party for some people who are opportunistic. They're looking for that cover in order to misbehave. They look at it as a license. Look, none of us want to see people dancing on the tomb of the unknown soldier or desecrating that in any way, shape, or form. She didn't know. She was given the education. But for all intents and purposes, I don't think she was part of the convoy. She was someone who showed up.
No.
She was looking for the pig roast and the bouncy castle. She wanted to be part of the party.
And one of the things that was really tragic, at one point, somebody with a swastika flag was not on Parliament Hill, not with the truckers, but there was a photograph showing, and it was a far distance. I'm not sure where it was, but somebody.
I think they were walking along the canal, sort of near the National Arts Center, weren't they?
Something like
over
that,
near the Shaw Center, yeah.
And so somebody takes this picture, and before you know it, including, the Prime Minister even called them a bunch of Nazis. Remember that?
Right.
So that's the kind of media coverage that we got. And as I say, the persecution continues. And by the way, towards the end of it, I said, time to go home. Pack it in, go home. I've said this many
100%.
times. Absolutely, which they should have done. But this honking of the big complaint seems to be the honking of horns, which was stupid. But you know what? One woman, not a member of city council or anything else, got it stopped. She got a cordon. Remember that? Just a 20-year-old woman entirely on her own, which means that the police could have done this, the city could have done this, any city councilor could have done this, but they didn't do it. And so it was left up to one civilian to do it. So that just shows you how the whole thing was handled. Go ahead, John.
Listen, I want to plow through a lot of the comments. We got a very thoughtful response from the audience today. Let's get a word in first, though, for Shields while we can, Lowell.
Yes, of course. Getting up some inquiries about, is it true? A couple of people say, is it true that Shields is now a Sony dealer? Yes, they are. They're fully licensed Sony dealer. My understanding is that while they don't have all of the stock in stock right now, that a good deal of it they do, and they can get it very quickly. So it's not just appliances. And, as far as I'm concerned, Shields is the number one place for appliances right now. But in addition to that, all of the Sony equipment. I'm not really aware of exactly everything that Sony makes, but my understanding is that, John, what are some of the things that Sony that makes?
Oh, Sony makes great audio, fantastic audio, but they're also into video cameras, DSLR cameras. They've certainly got MP3 players.
What's a DLSR camera?
So that'll be your modern day journalist camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the interchangeable lenses, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, just as an aside, and I don't know if Shields sells them or
TVs,
not.
of course, TVs, big time.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
So just folks, I just want to remind you, yes, and they have finance plans, not just for the appliances, but also for the Sony equipment as well. Shields. Check them, check them out. They have a wonderful website, very easy to use. I've said it 100 times, say it again. If I can figure it out and work it, you can too. Shields.ca. John, go ahead. Oh, by the way, I wanted to comment. Um, when I was in television, obviously I used a video camera, used a still camera, became pretty proficient. And I understand you're a very good photographer as well. But what's amazing to me is like my wife's phone can take
Yeah.
better quality pictures than I can take with a with a Nikon, or I can remember the quality of the pictures that can be taken with a phone today. There's an example of where technology has really leapfrogged.
I
What?
often wonder why I've invested so much in lenses, because you're exactly right. My cell phone takes
It's
some
unbelievable.
fantastic images.
Let me tell you, I started 1956 in a radio station in Brantford, Ontario. But I also was what they called a stringer, a correspondent for the Toronto, not the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Telegram.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It gone to, okay. And I had it was a huge camera, a Crown graphic camera. It had a big flash thing on the top. You see these old movies with
And
the
you have to
guys
change
with
the bulb between every single shot.
That's right, and the fedora hats and these great big hats. That's what I started my career with.
Sure.
With this
Sure.
great big Crown craft. It weighed about 25 pounds. You have to hold this thing up. Oh my God! So and now my wife's phone takes better pictures, I'm sure, than the Crown graphic ever could. Let's get back to the topic here. Go ahead.
You're right. Other than a zoom lens, I think the DSLRs do a great job. All right. Let me see. I totally agree. The money donated to the Freedom Convoy should either be freed up or returned to the donors. Gregory says, I believe the Nazi flag carriers were in Majors Hill Park behind the Chateau Laurier, which is...
I think you're right. I think that he's right. There was a swastika, some damn stupid fool. For all I know, a plant. Who knows? Go ahead, John.
Craig says, isn't it funny that they sent the hounds after the woman that walked on the grave of the unknown soldier but had no interest in the individual with the swastika flag? Colleen, and sadly, so many bought his accusations. I couldn't sit still and believe how vilified the truckers are. Kathy says the thought it was partial funded by Russians, a playbook from the States insinuating the convoy was Canada's January 6th. Yeah, there was a whole lot of dialogue about that too. Gregory, also some vandalism on Elgin Street was insinuated as a trucker-related incident, he puts in quotes. It was truckers who called the police on said incident.
By the way, I think I have misled people. I have been saying that Wellington Street is closed. Well, where is it closed? Because when we went over to Quebec, we came up Kent Street. We turned left on Wellington, all kinds of traffic flowing there. So where is Wellington Street closed off?
Right in front of the hill?
It must be just in front of the hill. If someone can tell me here, because I was shocked. I got into a real debate with my wife, and what do you call the GPS woman?
Well,
the GPS, where we put on GPS says go up Kent Street and turn.
Call her Siri or whatever system.
Whatever her name is. So I said, well, hold it. I said, Wellington Street's blocked off. No. The GPS says go left. Oh, by the way, GPS calls Maniwaki Manakiki.
You want to have some fun? We're down a whole bunch of rabbit holes here. From Elgin to Bank on Wellington, says Andre. It's closed from Ellington to Bank on Wellington. So yeah,
from
literally
Elgin
right in front.
To Bank.
Yeah, that's literally right in front of the hill.
Okay, so just that. Okay, so
just west. So just west of the hill, pretty much towards the I guess that's the West Block, and then the Supreme Court.
Okay, all right.
Thanks,
okay.
Andre.
I just wanted to make that plain because I think I've been misleading people. I was under the impression, as was a lot of other people, that Wellington Street was blocked, period.
Yeah,
well,
not entirely. Not entirely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to have some fun locally, I know where Churchill Avenue is, but have a GPS try and find Churchill. That's a good time. That's a good time. All right, Corleen says, oddly enough, there was no reporting on the vandalism done to the park convoy trucks, slashed tires, cut brake airlines, etc. Murray says, under a crime minister, you have seen more corruption than with all put together before him. Kellyanne says, free it up or give it back to those who donated it. If the government keeps it, it is theft. Over to Kathy on Facebook. Yes, in all caps. Yes, the money should be freed up. Trudeau and his Liberals should never be allowed to steal this money. We as Canadians donated that money to the truckers, and it was to be used for their cause.
Don't forget, one of the things that happened is that some of the people who donated, including one woman apparently just donated $20, had their entire bank accounts frozen. Remember that?
Mhm.
That was part of the Emergency Measures Act that was passed and removed our civil rights. And can you imagine the Prime Minister of a Western democracy being allowed to go into somebody's bank account and freeze the bank account because they donated $20 to a convoy that was totally legal? That happened in Canada. That's not in China or North Korea or Cuba, for God's sake. That happened in Canada. People who donated small amount of money to a legal organization, a legal cause, with the best of intentions, had their bank accounts frozen. Those of you who still, think that the sun shines on Justin Trudeau, just remember that for a moment. Let me ask you this. If you had donated, let's say $20, best of intentions, to any place, and because of it, they came in and froze your bank account, how would you feel? That you were in a Western society? I don't think so. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to answer that by saying I sure as hell wonder what country I had woken up in, because it wasn't the one that I was in the last time.
It happened in this country.
Let's go to email. Our first email of the day, Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Thank you, Lisa. She says the people who donated the money should be asked if they want it back or not. If not, then it should be carefully monitored to ensure it goes to where it's intended and to ensure that someone isn't skimming off the top to line their own pockets. All right. Darlene, agree 100%. The money to the truckers, that was where it was intended. Trudeau had no right to do this. Free it up, says Carrie, or return it to the people who donated it so that they can decide if they still want to support the defense in court. Rick is on Facebook as well. Justin Chavez has patterned his rule after the world despots. No sense appealing to what is right. Justin Chavez. Okay. Gregory says, I thought GoFundMe sent the money back to the donators. No, Gregory, as far as I can tell, Lowell, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but because that was in the paper today, wasn't it, too? That's the big article. That's big news of the day.
That's the big news is that the truckers have asked that $450,000 be freed up.
Over to Dale. I believe this is the first time we've heard from you. Dale, thank you. I hope you're here because somebody shared the show. Now we ask you to do the same. Share. Thank you. Dale says freezing people's accounts was disgusting. He should have been demanded to step down. Trudeau's been trying to get access to our bank accounts since early on. Remember when he wanted StatsCan to look into how much money people had in their bank accounts? Our country has taken a steady downhill slide, says Murray, since the Liberals got into power. And more comments from Kellyanne. Kellyanne, you write a lot on this show. Thank you. She says, it's terrifying to what length this government will go to. Insane. Freezing someone's bank accounts for a $20 donation just doesn't justify any reason for doing this.
Let me just comment on that. Not everybody has a very friendly relationship with their bank, despite despite some of the advertisements. I just wonder what would happen. I guess it depends upon the bank manager, but I'm just wondering what if your bank account is frozen by a decree from the federal government. I just wonder what that might do to the banking relationship. I'm sure in some cases it didn't affect it, but I'm just wondering if in some cases that it didn't harm the relationship. I mean, don't forget, banks hold many of the mortgages, and really, in some cases, carry a lot of power over people.
Oh, yeah.
If a bank has your mortgage and has the right to foreclose on the mortgage or whatever, I just, the mere idea of freezing a bank account by the government, that's a scary concept.
The amount of trouble that could put people in, late with rent, late with mortgage payments, credit card payments, car payments, etc., vehicles repossessed, and on, and the credit ratings, and it just is snap of a fingers, and people are absolutely in desperate situations. All right,
very true.
We got about a minute left. Let's squeeze in a few comments here. Lowell Lynn says, unfortunately, people will stop donating to these causes if they don't free up that money frozen illegally. Chris says, return it to the donators. I wouldn't let it anywhere near the organizers, but to keep it from those who donated is, in fact, theft. Greg says, free up the money for those who are going to need it for court costs and hang the 1%. LOL. Let me see. The money was intended to go to the cause. Of the powers that be refuse to let that happen, then return it to the donors. Barbara says, of course the money should be freed. And you're right, John. When you donate money, you want it to go where you send it. Damn right. Eric, last word to you. The money was donated to support democracy. It should be freed up to allow proper trials at the very least.
Thank you all, folks. And don't forget, please, even though you shared it before, share it again. Share. This is the best. There's no question that our audience is beginning to expand.
Huge.
Quite dramatically, actually. And one of the reasons is that it's shared. There's a lot of people still don't know we're here. One of the ways to inform them is for you to share and let them know. Thank you all very much. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.